Hey, this is Bryce, and thanks for tuning into my YouTube channel, Jack of Trades. Today I'm going to show some great finds that I found at the swap meet this weekend. I went to it was my first RC swap meet. Cal Hobbies in San Jose was hosting it. So I went down there and found some cool vintage cars. I'd like to just go ahead and share that with the channel. So I will flip around the camera and see what we got. And I found myself a couple of vintage cars, two actually. So the first one is this Futaba FX10, which is, at first sight it looks pretty trashed. It was definitely a runner back in the day, but I don't think it's too bad off. I actually don't know a whole lot about the FX10s. I do have a couple of strikers. I have one project car that I've been working on, as well as a new in-box kit. But I started looking at kind of my spare parts, because the only broken part on this car is this front left arm. Otherwise it's complete, and the body, of course, the body's missing. So the body, Team Blue Groove makes the body, so I'll go ahead and pick up the body from Team Blue Groove. The arm is going to be harder to find. I have some striker arms, because I basically my project strikers mostly all new parts, and I kept the old parts. But I just noticed there's subtle differences between these cars. The arms would probably drop in fine. Well, actually, yeah, the arms would probably drop in fine, but there are differences. You can see on the FX10, the shock comes through the arm and mounts to the bottom of the arm. Whereas on the striker, the shock doesn't go all the way through the arm, it mounts towards the top, and you can see there's a different pattern of webbing and bracing between the striker and the FX10. I also noticed that even things like the bumpers are slightly different. So here's a striker bumper, the FX10 bumper. You can kind of see the ribs. This has two ribs sticking out, this has two skinnier ribs, and then some even skinnier ones on the sides of that. So again, it probably, and actually this doesn't even, I just noticed this now, this has two screws in the rear, whereas this only has one screw in the rear. So there are differences. I've always heard that the striker FX10s are the same, but they're not similar enough to swap parts. Even this battery door is slightly different. It's wider in the post here. It has different number. This has 3 grooves, whereas this has 2 grooves. So I don't even know if this would drop in. I would probably have to modify this. Not that I need to. I just, if I want to clean this up, I have to find FX10 parts. So anyways, I haven't been able to find the arms. I've only had this car for a couple days. CRP makes a nice little double wishbone front arm kit for this car. Seeing as how kind of loved and used this car is, I'll probably restore it to a mild runner. I'm not going to get it in mint condition with what I have, so I might as well restore it and have some fun with it. Also, in this car, the chassis is starting to crack in that corner there, and that's common. We got small kind of hairline fractures in those corners there. So one of the other kits that CRP makes is an aluminum brace here with a plastic injection molded bumper for the front. So I think I'll go ahead and get that brace kit, the bumper, and then the double wishbone A-arms in the front. And I think this car will be ready to run. I gotta find a motor and a little cover for the gearbox. That should be easy. And some tires. But yeah, for 20 bucks, I think it's worth it. It'll be a nice little runner when it's done. The next car I got that kind of really caught my eye was this Falcon. So it was the Falcon, this little plastic tool or fishing tote, and then a Futaba radio. Let's look at the radio first. Back in the day, my first RC car, I had a Futaba stick attack radio, and this kind of predates even that, I believe, just based on the look of it. But it's a FP-2GS. So I might just go ahead and keep it and run it that way, just because it kind of fits the the era of the vehicle. And then the little tote. Well, actually, let's go over the car first. So the car, you know, it's a Falcon. It's been well used, well loved. But what's interesting to me about this car is, as much running as it's had, there are no cracks in the parts that you would expect to see cracks on. So usually on this car, on the front end, you get cracks around the shock mounts, the arm pivots, the uprights. On the rear, you get cracks around the pivots of the rear swing arms or trailing arms. And there's just no cracks on these parts, which is amazing. So this car, you know, aside from being run, is in excellent condition, just because none of the parts are cracked. Everything looks sound. Even on the, and I haven't taken it apart yet, and all this whole story could change once I start taking it apart. But even on the gearbox, you get cracks around these little bosses where the roll cage or the motor cage, I guess, screws into the gearbox. And I just don't see any cracks on this car, which is incredible for this type of car. I've taken apart several Falcons, and every Falcon that I've taken apart has had some kind of failure or cracking on these brittle parts. Even on the bulkheads, you get cracks around here, and there's just nothing going on. It's amazing. So for the price, this is basically a complete car. I got the receiver, mechanical speed controller. It comes with a vintage Kyosho modified motor, which even that motor was worth the price of this whole package. I'll take this motor out and probably use it for something else. Actually, I said no cracks, and this isn't even cracked. This is just kind of beat up from tumbling, probably on asphalt. But still no cracks. So let's get a battery clip too. That's another thing with these Falcons, is these battery clips are really hard to find. So if you get a Falcon, try to get the battery clip. You can print these. There's files out there to print these battery clips, but it's always nice to have the original, especially if it doesn't need to be printed. You know, obviously if you're going to run this car, I would completely replace the front end with printed parts, just so you don't have to worry about damaging these cars. If this is going to be a shelf queen, go ahead and clean it up, throw it on a shelf. But if you want to run it, replace everything. Otherwise you're going to break this stuff. Same with the rear lower swing arms. Replace those with printed parts. All right, let's see what's in the box. So I've already looked in here. There's some cool spares. So these little blocks here, these are the pivots for the rear swing arms. They bolt up to the chassis, or the bucket chassis, and then the hinge pin goes through here. And these are new, so those are nice. Those can sometimes get cracked around the pivot, or these little slots here. We have these, which look like wheel adapters or extenders. I don't know. I'd have to take the wheel off to see what's going on. Actually, we can do that right now. Let's just see I forget what the Falcon uses. Okay, so these are extenders, it looks like. So here's the original adapter to go from the cross pin to the four bosses on the wheel. And then this extends it out by, I don't know, 12 millimeters. So if we put that on there, then your wheel would go on here. And actually, I don't know how this would work because there's no way to bolt that on. You probably need longer drive shafts. In theory, actually maybe this doesn't work. Is that the same pattern? No, no, there's a similar pattern on there. Okay, it's there. See, that fits there. But how do you get your wheel to bolt on? That's the question. Yeah, so it would be like that in theory, but the only thing I don't understand is how do you lock this onto the drive shaft? I don't know. Alright, just put this on real quick. I know I'm missing the washer. Alright. The other thing I thought was cool is here's the box for that motor. So we basically have a vintage Kyosho motor with the original packaging, which is cool. Little motor case. It's a nice little case for the motor. How does that pop open? Wow, that's on there good. Okay, it just popped open. Yeah. So yeah, I'll take that motor, throw it in the case, and hold on to it and see until I find something to use it for or sell it. I'm not a big motor collector. I have a lot of vintage motors, but nothing that goes on the shelf for display. I don't have a lot of display space in my house, so usually the stuff is put up in storage. We have some paint, I guess, touch-up paint. This stuff is probably dry. Actually, it looks like it could just be mixed. That's a smell you don't forget. We have an upper front bulkhead, and it looks like it's been unused. And that's a nice part to have. Yeah, it looks like antenna flags. That used to be a thing back in the day for your radio. I've never actually used it, but every radio I bought came with it. This is a little radio tray. It's interesting. Sometimes the Falcons come with this, sometimes they don't. It gets bolted up in here, and I guess you can mount your speed controller or a receiver there if you want to. Miscellaneous screws, some extra pins, cross pins for the drive shafts. These are nice to have, these shock spacers. These yellow CVA shocks get used in a lot of the Tamiya cars, and it's nice to have a collection of these spacers for adjusting your spring preloads. What else? I was hoping there'd be some adapters for these extenders, but I don't see that. So yeah, a nice little kit of parts. I would definitely. So what's the plan with this car? Well, I don't have any plans with this car. I already have quite a few Falcons. I found this at the swap meet. It was a great deal that I couldn't pass up on. So I think for the price of this kit with the radio, toolbox, car, I will be able to break even by just selling the motor. So basically it's a free car, which is great, but I don't know what to do with it, so we'll see. Anywho, this is the first time I've been to a swap meet ever, and I was specifically going to look for some vintage RC cars. That's kind of one of the things I like to do, is find kind of beat up vintage RCs and restoring them. I find that more enjoyable than even doing a kind of brand new in the box kit build. I think there's a lot of fun. There's a lot of fun to be had in restoring a well-used car. But thanks for watching, and have a good one.